So Dean, I would like to introduce you to our German viewers and followers, and I would like to talk about your practice. You have been in a field of reproductive law medicine for a very long time. You have very famous clients, so if you want to just tell me a little bit more about your firm and your work in Los Angeles, how can you support our German parents and parents around the world?
Sure. So just a little history. We started our firm in 1994, so 31 years now we've been doing it. We wrote the law in California along with a couple other lawyers. The laws in California became the laws that were modeled by other states: Nevada, Washington, Oregon, Colorado, most of the western states and eastern states. And the laws is perfect for international clients traveling to the United States to have children. For German couples specifically, the laws in Germany are also now very favorable to coming to America, having a child through reproductive laws that have been enacted and with doctors, so that their American surrogate will carry a child that was implanted with embryos provided by that couple, whether it was their sperm or their eggs or not. They were donor eggs or donor sperm, it doesn't matter. Whether they are straight or gay or single or married, it doesn't matter. The laws favor everybody, particularly in California, so that after the child is delivered, we will help them get travel documents and birth certificates to allow them to return back to Germany with their child or their children. And all of that requires a lawyer.
And what would you say, why would the parents pick California over another state in the US?
California is the pioneer of all of these laws, and as you know, when laws are written, there's always things that need to be ironed out or fixed or changed, and California is just that far ahead of the rest of the states that copied California. So we enacted surrogacy laws in California in 1998, whereas New York just did it 2 years ago. Michigan just did it this last year. Many states have now outlawed it or have created abortion statutes where you just can't go because you don't have the options available to you in terms of testing the pregnancy to make sure that the fetus is developing normally, or terminating a pregnancy if you have to do that. So California is just that far ahead, and the laws are so favorable in terms of marital status, gender status, and everything else.
And can you explain how the long history and a plethora of cases in the state help guide new cases? How the case law, because different, like the German patients might not understand how the legal system works and how a lot of basically current cases are actually decided based on case law.
Well, in truth, there's two kinds of laws. There's statutory law, which are laws that are written by lawmakers, and then there's case law. The case law in California are judgments that declare who are the legal parents, have been tested all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court and all the way down in the federal system and in the state system. So the case law has clearly established that it is legal for a person to come to the U.S. and to pay a woman in a commercial relationship to carry a child for them. You cannot have a commercial surrogacy in Canada. You cannot have commercial surrogacy in Europe, Australia, Asia, or really anywhere around the world that's reliable. Yes, there are some countries, for example, let's say Colombia or Argentina, that say they can do it, but they really don't have laws that back that up. So if something goes wrong, if a surrogate changes her mind, or surrogate moves, or surrogate wants to try and keep the baby, you really don't have that backstop of those laws to protect the intended parents. Whereas in California, all of those laws have been tested and all of those laws have been upheld. There's no chance that a surrogate can change her mind or keep her child, and there's no chance that the intended parents will not be named the legal parents of their child.
And I think this is something that would put our German viewers at ease, because they always are worried, what if something doesn't work, how will it be recognized? And I think one of the key parts that we have now in Germany particularly is that the pre-birth orders are recognized when the children are born, and they use that judgment from the United States to basically have it recognized in a German court. Can you tell me more about the pre-birth order, how that works?
Sure. Now, right now, because we have a written contract that's notarized and signed between the intended parents and the surrogate, and if she's married, her husband, we can go to court with that contract and we can have the court declare that they are the legal parents before the baby's even born, meaning that it's already declared, and then they will send a copy of that judgment to the hospital. The hospital knows they are the legal parents. With that judgment, we can get a birth certificate. With that birth certificate, we get a passport, and with that passport, they travel home. Now, a lot of German citizens right now are asking questions about what President Trump is saying about birthright citizenship, and is that going to impact surrogacy? And to put everybody's mind at ease, I'm going to tell you no, it's not going to impact surrogacy. And the reason that comes up is because you're talking about a pre-birth order. It's possible that in the future we might switch to a post-birth order, because basically what the president is saying is you can't come to the United States, get pregnant, have a baby, make your baby a U.S. citizen, and then suddenly you get to stay in the United States. First of all, our clients aren't doing that. They don't want to stay in the United States. They want to go back home. Second of all, your baby is not being delivered by you, a foreigner from another country. It's being delivered by a woman who is a U.S. citizen. So the child will lawfully be born, even if those laws are changed, which, by the way, I do not think will happen. I do not think those laws will ever change. Right now we do pre-birth orders. We have the legal ability. We already wrote it into the law many years ago because things come up. We already have the legal right to do a post-birth order. I don't have to go back and change the laws. I don't have to write any new laws. So all of our German clients are protected whichever way anything goes.
That's great. It's great to hear for our German patients. And I would also like to ask you, how does your firm stand out compared to maybe another law firm? Like, what kind of support do you offer to the parents, let's say starting from the initial consultation before they even get the surrogate? Like, how do you support them through the journey?
Well, those are really two questions. What sets us apart from other law firms is really the experience and the size of the firm. Most lawyers who are doing this, maybe they have one lawyer, maybe they have two lawyers. We have 5 lawyers. We have 5 lawyers, and we have lawyers licensed in almost every state. I have 3 licenses myself. It's California, Colorado, Washington State. Other lawyers have different licenses. We also have a support staff of 15 other people. So we're really the largest law firm in terms of numbers and in years of experience. We've been doing it since 1994. You will not find another lawyer that's been doing it longer than we have, who also wrote the laws in the state of California. So it's really just based on that amount of experience and that amount of knowledge. We've seen everything, we've handled everything, we've done everything. Well, in terms of the support, we really take the client from the very, very beginning, from the moment they travel to the U.S. to consult with their doctor and discuss creating their embryos, to the time they get on that plane and they go home with their baby. And we do it all under an umbrella of one flat fee. So they don't have to worry about how many hours, am I going to have to pay for my lawyer? How much time? Every time I call my lawyer, it's going to cost me money. It doesn't work that way. It's one fee. It covers everything. And we will answer any question. We will solve any problem. And we will be with them from the very beginning to the very end.
So what we'd also like to ask you, and what some parents do not realize, is that you are also a litigator. So while a lot of attorneys might be very well versed in contract law and they're really good setting up the actual contracts, you can enforce the contracts. So can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so there's what we call commercial or transactional lawyers. Those are lawyers that just sit at a desk and type contracts and talk on the phone. And then, which I do, but there's also litigation, which are lawyers who actually go to court and enforce rights and stand in front of a judge and argue things when something doesn't go as planned. I grew up as a lawyer litigating for the prosecutor's office and the defense attorney's office and the sheriff's department, which is the police department. So I've done state court, I've done federal court, I've done defense, I've done prosecution, I've done all sides. I have thousands and thousands of court trials and hundreds of criminal or jury trials. The experience that gives me is a lot of lawyers can write things, but they don't have the perspective of knowing what's going to happen if something goes wrong. And clients, if something does go wrong, clients have to go find another lawyer. With me and with our firm, not only are we with you from the beginning until the end, but we're with you through the drafting and through the writing. And then if something does come up or go wrong, we'll go to court and we'll fix it. So you get really two lawyers in one. There's not another lawyer in this industry that has a whole litigation section of their office and a transactional section.
Great. And I wanted to ask you also, I know that you support the parents in some other parts as well. So besides getting the contract with a surrogate, you help them with insurances, you help them with family estate planning. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so international couples have a difficult time getting insurance in the United States because U.S. insurance companies, it works much different than it does here in Europe. And since they're not citizens of the United States, they cannot get automatic insurance coverage. So we help them get insurance to cover the cost of the newborn baby's birth. It's their baby, it's their financial responsibility. The surrogate also has to have insurance and has to have her bills paid. So we will review the insurance that the surrogate has, say whether it is good or bad, and whether or not we need to get different insurance so we can reduce the cost for the intended parents.
And can you also tell me more about how you handle the escrow?
Well, escrow, we used to hold escrow. We do not hold escrow any longer. We sold it to a company called Seed Trust out of Florida, which is the largest escrow company in the United States now. It's very important to have a company that has a long-standing reputation because your money it's very expensive to come to the United States and have a baby. There's no doubt about it, and you want to make sure your money's protected. So we will oversee the money. We'll make sure it goes into Seed Trust. We will watch every transaction. We will be copied on every transaction. It works very much like online banking now. So the intended parents will put their money into trust. They can log on, they can see their balance, they can see their deposits, they can see the debits. And if anything goes wrong, they can put a stop. And then we as their lawyers will go figure out what's wrong and make sure that their money is protected and safe.
I don't think that there is any other level of transparency like in the United States compared to other countries where a surrogate basically gets managed by the agency. You don't have that level of transparency. You don't see how much money went to the surrogate, how much money went to the clinic, how much money went to the insurance. So I think that is something that sets the US apart, and that's something that the parents actually value, that they actually see where every single dollar goes and can be accounted for.
Right, it's absolutely true. You know, like I said, there are some countries in South America that are doing it. I even heard there's a country in Africa doing it. You can't possibly have peace of mind going to one of those places. It doesn't mean you could not possibly have a good outcome. It doesn't mean it might not be less expensive, but you have no assurance or guarantee whatsoever that the money is actually going to the surrogate, that the woman that they say is your surrogate is actually carrying your baby, that the woman won't change her mind and can't just disappear pregnant with your child. There's so many uncertainties and so many problems that you just don't have in the United States. So is the United States more expensive? Yes. Is it outrageously more expensive? No. Is the money that you pay in the United States worth the peace of mind and the assurance of knowing that everything will go perfect? Yes.
What would you say was your most remarkable case that you have done? I know that you have some very famous patients, you have patients from all over the world. What would you say is your most remarkable case?
Well, you know, I can't answer that question. I mean, it's hard to say. For me as a litigator, the most remarkable cases really are where something went wrong and I fixed it. And everybody was scared and concerned, and ultimately the outcome worked out perfect. Every case is a miracle. Every time someone who is experiencing infertility has a baby is great. I get thousands of cards every year with pictures of babies, and it's great. But the most remarkable ones are the people who really were the most distraught and had the least amount of hope, and then came to the US and actually had a baby and went home with their baby.
Right. And I think this is also something that I would like to point out, is that you can take cases and you can customize some sort of legal framework for the cases, right? Because you can handle all kinds of difficult situations. And I think this is what the patients want to know, is that basically, regardless if they're in a difficult situation, if they have or they want certain legal basically protections, you can make that work for them.
Right. I mean, we've had all types of situations, and we plan in advance for unintended emergencies that come up. Sometimes there's a divorce. Sometimes somebody suddenly dies. It could be a COVID lockdown where they're suddenly locked in some country and they can't fly to the United States to get their baby. We have all of these things thought out in advance, and we have documents, legal documents prepared in advance. So no matter what happens, we're already ready. And if something does come up that was unexpected, which I can't imagine after this many years, we will fix it. I have never in 31 years and 40,000, however many cases, failed to get the baby to the intended parents. Never.
Yeah, and I think that's great to know. That gives the confidence in the patients. They need to realize it, because basically it all seems like it's just a contract that is done, but it's so much more to that. I always tell the German patients, there are so many options. Like, there's so many options, so much we can do, but all of that can create additional problems. And the more options you have, the more, the greater the framework that they're working with, the more problems they might arise. And you can basically legally ensure that all the problems are taken care of.
Yeah, legally, it's never going to go wrong. If something goes wrong, it's going to be something that happened, medically. There was not a pregnancy for some medical reason, or some conflict of personalities between the intended parents and the surrogate. But under the law, nothing can go wrong in California. And in most states that I'm in.
That's great to hear. Is there anything else that you want to add that I didn't address?
No, not right now. I mean, the political climate is concerning people, and I'm here to tell you that they should not be concerned about the political climate. The laws in the United States are stable. The laws will not change. And like we plan for every possible outcome, we already have a plan in place if the law ever did change.
Right. And I think that, I always want to point out that the parents send in for getting the baby. There's never a question, are they going to have the baby? Is it going to be their baby? Nobody's questioning that.
Yeah, no one's questioning IVF. No one's saying you can't come to the United States to have a baby. No one's saying you can't sign a contract. And in California, the law already says if you have a contract, you're the legal parent. And under the Hague Convention and treaties between Germany and the United States, the German government will recognize your US-born baby as your baby. The only question that could possibly come up is if President Trump or the government changed the birthright laws, is how we get your baby home. And we already have plans in place. We can do it through the German consulate. We can do it with temporary travel visas. It's not a problem. I mean, I know people see a lot of rhetoric on TV, but at the end of the day, the US government is trying to keep illegal people sneaking into the United States from having what they call anchor babies, and then trying to stay in the United States. And that just has nothing to do with surrogacy.
Right, right. And we see this. I mean, I have to say on my end, I see some parents doing the whole surrogacy process because of the citizenship, which is of course legal and it's part of the reproductive freedom. But as a byproduct, if that might not be possible in the future, is that possibly patients who really need the surrogacy for medical reasons will have more options, because simply one of the source of or one of the segment of the surrogacy might actually be less utilized.
Well, you're saying maybe there's less demand for surrogates, but I honestly don't think that's going to happen. I think the laws are not going to change. But if it did and there's more surrogates available, then that's fine too.
That's good for the parents who really need them. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much.